Okay, so you have thought it through and you decided not to fund your own business. You see no way to bootstrap it yourself. You've decided that you have to go out and raise money from some other source. And that decision is very, very significant because what you're about to get yourself into is a very rigorous process for actually how to go present yourself and ask for money in some form. So there's a lot of ways to do this right, and there's a lot of ways to do it wrong. I want to try and talk about most of the rightness of this and help you get through this process with some possibility that you could succeed. So you have to be prepared for this. So let's talk about how to be prepared. Pay attention. It's obvious, right? The first thing you think of is, well, I guess I better have a plan for this. Yes, of course. You've got to be able to present a plan, a written plan, a well thought out plan. We've talked about business planning in other videos that we've done. I'm not going to go through all the 9 yards of a business plan, but it has to be thorough. It has to be concise. It has to be straightforward, clearly stated, and understandable. It's about 12 pages long, somewhere in that territory. It is not 50. This is not a piece of due diligence material. This is simply a document that informs a potential investor, a source of investment, for what this business is all about, and touches upon all of the major points that make this an attractive business. And it's convincingly showing that this business has a great chance to succeed. So have a plan for your business with all of the chapters that are normally seen in a business plan. That's your first step. Right along with that goes, as an appendix to your business plan, is your financial forecast. Have an outlook. So think about it. A potential investor is going to do some calculations. It's going to be based upon what you think this business is going to be like financially and over a long period of time. An investor, whether they're buying equity in your company or loaning you money, are going to want to see how they're going to get a return on this. If it's a loan, they want to know that you can pay it back and you'll have profit with which to do that. If it's an equity investor, they're going to want to see a great growth and great value produced by your company in a 4 or 5 year period, sometimes sooner. Angel investors are kind of interested in early exits. You've got to show over a period of time, could be 3 to 5 years, depending on who you're talking to. You'll get all sorts of questions about it. But do an honest attempt at trying to portray the financial dynamics of this business. Heck, will they believe it? No. But they will give you credit for at least portraying the dynamics of the business, how you intend to grow it, and if successful, here's what the financial results could possibly be. You don't promise it or anything like that. This is not a promise. This is your forecast, what you think will happen. Better yet, what you're going to try to make happen because you believe it. You believe it. And you're going to convince them that you believe it. So a forecast simply sets the scene for what the financial results could be, so that an equity investor or someone who's going to loan you money sees how they're going to get a return. Simple as that. And they got to believe it. And so you have to be believable. So that's a forecast. Pretty important discussion. Then after you put this plan and forecast together, you've got to have a good presentation. A short, concise, 20-minute or less presentation, beginning to end, without questions. You got 20 minutes to say your piece. Because if you try to take longer than that, honestly, you ought to try to do it less if you can. Think about this. This is a sales pitch to convince someone to provide you some financing. And they've got to believe what you're talking about. So you hit upon the highest points of your market, your competitive position, your marketing plan results, your sales plan results, your financial forecast, which we've talked about. All of these things that give people belief that there's a great chance that this company could be successful because you know a lot about it and how to make it happen. It sells the potential investor on wanting to hear more. They usually don't write a check right there in the room when you first meet them, or when you go to a financing institution and present the application. They go off and do some due diligence. Well, that's what any investor is going to do. Presentation is simply getting your potential investor interested enough to take the next step in due diligence. So you're not presenting due diligence material at this point. You're selling the highlights of your business and why you think it's going to be successful, the things you're going to do to make it successful. That's it. Once that's done, you want them to say, man, I want to know more. Thank you very much for that great presentation. I'd like to get back together with you next week for a couple hours to go through this in more detail. That's a win. So the next step is to be prepared for this due diligence process. I've used this fancy word called disclosures. What you're in for is whatever the follow-up questions are and concerns that a potential investor has, you need to be able to answer them. Quite often they ask for documentation about your company, founding documents, contracts that you've got, non-disclosure agreement files. The list goes on of stuff that a potential investor is going to want to know about your company and the inner workings of it to make sure that there's no snakes in this that's going to bite them later on. You should have all of this material ready to go. Don't be fumbling around and say, well, I'll get that back to you maybe 3 days, 4 days, by the end of the week. It's some ridiculous answer like that. No, it's immediate. Bam. Give me your email address and I'll send it to you. Or here's my disclosure notebook. Or here's my disclosure file. It's a URL to a Dropbox that contains all of these documents that you could possibly be asked for. So it takes some preparation to be ready for this process of due diligence. Whether it's a bank, whether it's a private person loaning you money, or whether it's one of the local angel groups or other equity investor organization around your area. So you be ready for it. Look smart. Don't be fumbling around looking for stuff and never finding it. Worse yet, you're showing that you are seriously interested in getting their interest in it, and you have information that they want readily available. That will go a long ways to convince the investors that you are a reasonably well-organized company. Have stuff ready and don't go out asking for investors until you do. So in this due diligence process, they're going to ask you lots of questions. Be good to know what these questions might be and be prepared for them. Now, many investor groups, for example, and other financing institutions, banks, for example, have documents that describe, the information they want to get from you. It's usually a list. It's a due diligence list with angel groups, for example. Same for venture capital or any other equity investor. But banks have, here's the stuff we need, put it here, and all that sort of stuff. When it comes time to answer their questions about this material, you got to be ready. So anticipate their questions. Practice your answers. This is not quite as bad as a congressional hearing, but have answers and practice what they are. And you'll, again, look smart, you'll look prepared, and you look like you're well organized and you know a lot about your business. You want to come away from a due diligence meeting with them saying, these people were prepared. They had the answers. They know a lot about their business. They know the pitfalls, and they have action plans to deal with them. So have answers. Okay, so that's all about getting ready with all the material that you need to present and follow up with later during a due diligence process. Before you start approaching organizations or private individuals, decide on who the heck it is you're going to go after. So like in marketing, this is targeting potential customers. Well, we're going to target potential investors. So if you're going after financing institutions for a loan, regional banks, or other less regulated financial institutions, do the due diligence to look up their website, see what their preferences are for making loans, see what backing they've got, see how the funding does occur, and select the banks to go after. Same for equity investors. If it's a private individual, it's probably business associates, close friends, people know you and trust you, and you're going to make a judgment as to whether or not they have the financial wherewithal to actually do this and approach them. So if you're going after equity investment to some of these more formal angel organizations, for example, or private equity groups, learn more about each one of them. They all have websites that you can review. Look at their mission, look at their vision, look at their criteria, look at their portfolio, and see what they're actually investing in. Where are they putting their money? And if it looks like they're in the kind of market that you're in, and they have expertise in it, and the evidence shows that they have invested in it in the past, they could be a good target for you as well. You also could find, well, they've already invested in a company like me, they're not likely to do another one, so probably take them off your list. Do a proper job of targeting. Don't waste your time going after investment sources that just are not going to be practical or realistic. So you've done the process of targeting possible investors. Now it's time to get ready to actually go there to give your investor presentation. So it would be best for you to practice it. Some groups say, well, hey, you've got 20 minutes to present to us. We just pull the plug after that. We don't actually do it most of the time, but they're going to tell you something like that. They want you to be concise. So practice being concise. Don't walk in and say, yep, I can do this in 20 minutes and take 35. That's just going to grate them. If you're approaching a private individual, you said, I want to have a brief discussion with you, Sam or Sue or whatever. Follow through with what you said you would do. But this takes practice. This practice is how to say the most important things about the plan for your business in a limited amount of time, but having the greatest impact on the potential interest this investor may have in what your company is all about. So practice, practice, practice. Get it down to the time limit, but more importantly, say the right things the right way. Record yourself. See how you look. See how you're handling yourself. Do a good job of practice. You got the point, I think. So now that you've practiced, you're ready to go. You're prepared. So my message to you on how to finance your business is be prepared. And I think you now see there's a lot to do to be prepared, but you can do it. With that, have a great day.